Hello. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to season 4, episode 4 of the Essential Aromatica podcast. I'm your host, Amy Anthony of NYC Aromatica, bringing aromatherapy expertise to New York City's workforce through aromatherapy experiences so New Yorkers can integrate real aromatherapy into their lives to decrease stress and tension, enhance immunity, increase clarity, energy, and morale, and promote overall well-being for body, emotions, mind, spirit, and soul. We really do get into the soul in this episode. Also, pleased to say, offering one-on-one bespoke aromatherapy sessions to busy New Yorkers from a cozy studio in the Gramercy Park neighborhood. Well, here we are. This episode picks up from the last one about scented candles, Palo Santo, and lavender. What's the connection? It's poetry. If you joined me in that episode, you may recall I integrated lavender as an excuse to share Gabriel Mojay's aromatic sonnet on lavender. I am a sucker for poetry. I have been since being exposed to it in elementary school. I remember learning like the haiku form, which has stuck with me, and like literally concrete poetry and making words physical on a page. It was just like, wow, you can do that. Um, so anyway, so I find poetry incredibly soul feeding to read it, to write it. And when you come across a poem that strikes a deep chord in you, it's like, wow. Like there's some poems I can't forget, and I'm sharing a couple of them, one of them in this episode. So what I have written here, because if you join me, I write out my episodes so they're clear to me in my head. So like, does that make sense? So I hope you think it makes sense too, because here we are. So anyway, it's like artwork, dance, any mode of expression. This is all soul work. It's soul food. This is a real way to express things that maybe can't be expressed just through a conversation with the soul. That's the poem I'll be reading later. Anyway, so this episode is really getting into soul work and protection. And last episode ended with a haiku I wrote about Yarrow. And this time I have another poem recently composed about Yarrow, the herb Yarrow. And this is in conjunction with a Plant Talk article I published about Yarrow on February 18th of this year. Now, Yarrow is an herb I've mentioned a few times during Essential Aromatica. And it's an herb I've loved and known for years in the garden. It's just when you have an herb garden, there's yarrow, and you see yarrow around the world. It's widespread. There's interestingly, a lot of folks say yarrow's from Europe, but actually there is yarrow from North America. Anyway, that's an aside. That's important to share, though. So I've had the pleasure of distilling it several times to obtain its hydrosol, but something really kept me back from connecting with and writing about yarrow in depth all these years. I get into that in the article, so I have always approached it was always thwarted in some way, and I finally understand why now. So see the show notes for the article. Please take your time to go through that. So protective yarrow. Yarrow cleanses morrow's sorrow, as in tomorrow. That's just me playing with words there. And protection is something I explore in the article. And yarrow is a very protective plant indeed. But the episode is not about sharing the article. My intention is to highlight yarrow's protective quality. It is a spiritual aromatic, and so many aromatics work with spirituality. Check out season 3, episode 2 of this podcast for that. More on that, more depth. Yarrow is a soul plant that works with fluids, blood, all sorts of stuff, and it's really deep stuff. Yarrow and its essential oil, and of course other essential oils, help, quote, detox the brain, the mind, our emotions, our responses to stuff so we can be reflective, our responses to things that seem to be, the crap that happens, it's the cost of being alive, right? The price of living, that's what I have written here. It's when you're like, oh my gosh, all this is happening. I'm feeling overwhelmed, or you're really nitpicking on something, and when life seems to be happening to or at us rather than us participating. Interesting, right? This is yeah, life is interesting to say the least. So I have a class on my website called, quote, Detoxing the Brain. Link is in the show notes, of course. And this class was created thanks to my friend and colleague, Carolyn Jones, founder of the Healing Project Mobile Clinic, partnered with Herbalists Without Borders. Carolyn was a podcast guest, season one, episode 17. Thanks, Carolyn. A side note, by the way, as preparing for this episode, I found myself referencing several past Essential Aromatica episodes. We're in season four, so thank you. Thank you very much for listening, indulging me, and wow, that's pretty cool, right? So back to Carolyn. Oh, and I said thank you, listeners, and thank you, guests. Like, it's so cool, the people I've been able to meet, so thank you. So back to Carolyn. During the pandemic through 2021, Carolyn hosted monthly webinars with practitioners, especially notably herbalists, but several other 12 months of webinars discussing the overall topic was detoxing, such as detoxing the lungs, detoxing the blood, the sexual organs, et cetera, et cetera. And I was honored and like, wow, this is cool when she asked me to create a presentation on detoxing the brain. And this episode weaves together concepts showcased in that presentation turned video class. Again, link is on the website, and highlights Yarrow's special protective qualities and personality. So all of this is so I can share my poem Yarrow and two poems that were lightning the first time I encountered them. But especially I'm thinking of, I'm looking, did I have, it's the one poem. I was thinking of another poem, by the way. It's called A Meditation on a Grapefruit. Uh, but I digress. Um, so, drum roll, please. Welcome to the meat of the episode, Detoxing the Brain and Protective Yarrow. Let's start with the haiku from the last episode. She took off her shoes, danced in the moonlit garden, laughing with Yarrow. Now that's a soul poem. I remember writing that and it just came to me, right? You're taking off your shoes, you're dancing in the moonlight, laughing with a plant that brings protection and seems quite playful, but it's so neutral. Its qualities are so neutral. And that's the stuff that feeds the soul. Dancing, moonlight, plants. And like I just said, when I wrote that poem and emerged, I didn't write it. Yarrow did and came through me and expressed itself through the poem. And are you like, Amy, where are you going with this? Don't worry, I'll get there. So back to detoxing. Detoxing is often associated with removing toxins from the body, but it's equally vital to cleanse our minds and emotions. Toxins can come in many forms. External pollutants, negative self-talk, negative talk from other people, the stress of daily life. Like I just was saying before, how life happens at us versus us participating, that kind of stuff. So by starting with the self, high self, and addressing controllable factors like our own thoughts and emotions and our reactions, we can pave the way for more holistic well-being. It's hard being perfect, right? You know, the Dalai Lama, who's really perfect on this beautiful place called Earth? I'd like to think dogs are and cats and, a moose, seals. They're just doing their thing. Are they really caring about like, oh, I'm so sad because I didn't get that pair of jeans that I like, or whatever? Like, come on. Amy, stay on script. So essential oils with their profound impact on the limbic system and nervous system, the neuroendocrine system, offer a direct route to emotional and mental clarity, and dare I say, purification. And yes, I do dare. I just said it. Yarrow is an aromatic plant that stands out for its remarkable ability to clarify the mind and promote a balanced state. So many essential oils do that, but yarrow again it has this incredible like neutral quality about it, almost standoffish, but that's not quite. So it's really standing out because I've spent a lot of time with Yarrow these past few months. Again, it's come up in the podcast, and I've been really sitting with it, with the oil, and living with it, seeing what's happening. So let's first define detox. According to Merriam-Webster, quote, a regime or treatment intended to remove toxins and impurities from the body, end quote. So again, let's include internal. Many things can be toxins. External, pollutants, foods, words from others. Internal, words and thoughts from yourself, reactions, emotions, identifying with our emotions versus emotions being information, just like scent is information, right? Detoxing the mind, the brain. We have to start somewhere. It's easier to start with something we can have control over, like ourselves and our responses to life, responses to our thoughts, to other people, to reactions to the weather. We're like, oh, it's raining. Like it's just rain, right? Things we can't control. Aromatherapy helps break loops. This plant chemistry is communicative. The molecules are change agents that work with us. If we work with intention and consistency to nudge the change, to nudge the change, the balance. So here's a deep, meaningful thought. What is it want? Excuse me. Well, here's a deep and meaningful thought. What is it we want when we can't stop wanting? Once I read that, or when I read that in Christian Wyman's book, He Held Radical Light, I just couldn't let it go. This is a phrase that often pops into my head. I find it so haunting and so deep, and it says so much in so few words. What is it we want when we can't stop wanting? So his answer was God. I'm not going there necessarily. My focus is on filling the void, the wanting, the addictions, the obsessions. These are ways to attempt to fill holes in the soul, these wantings, the obsessions, to fill holes in the soul, the hungry, neglected soul, emptiness in ourselves, in the core of our being. Sometimes it hurts so much. Grabbing, wanting. This isn't just addiction, right? All of this, the obsessions, the wanting, can lead to dis-ease, mental muck, lack of clarity, stuff that keeps you up at night, but you don't know what it is. Like you're there. Maybe like it's not even on your mind. You're just restless. There's something lacking, keeping you up at night. The soul is our eternal sunshine, our little child, the one that can be loved and can love, can speak the truth, can play and explore, but also have boundaries, autonomy. The child can say no and yes. The soul needs to be tended to, along with the body. Without the soul, the body is a vapid zombie. The mind is the connection to the soul, spirit, and body. The emotions are the sparks that show us what needs tending to. Now, in the class, and now I'm going to share it now because this is a poem I've just, oh, another one that is so important to me. I assume to many people. This is called Conversation with the Soul by Robert Bly. And in the poem, it says, the soul said, give me something to look at. So part of this episode in the detox class and just stuff I think about a lot, right? Again, this is self-work that I'm doing. So this is pretty personal, but give the soul something to look at. Nourish it. Pay attention to it. Not on the superficial level, but deeply. What are your emotions telling you? So the soul said, give me something to look at. Hence poetry, art, gardening, bicycling, hiking, whatever it is, give the soul something to look at. Pay attention to it. So here's the poem. The soul said, give me something to look at. So I gave her a farm. She said, it's too large. So I gave her a field. The two of us sat down. Sometimes I would fall in love with a lake or a pine cone, but I liked her most. She knew it. Keep writing, she said. So I did. Each time the new snow fell, we would be married again. The holy dead sat down by her bed. This went on for years. This field is getting too small, she said. Don't you know anyone else to fall in love with? What would you have said to her? So, just some thoughts on the poem. And again, I've revisited this poem for so many years. So, the soul is often associated with the feminine energy in all of us, in the yin, right? And the spirit is often seen as the yang or the male. You could say the womb and the sperm. You can go down that road too. And writing and poetry is art. That is soul work. So that's addressed in this poem. Our ancestors are mentioned too. Honoring our ancestors feeds our soul. We wouldn't be here without them, right? So we have to love our souls the most. We have to love our souls the most and take care of them. That little child. There is no other in that sense. The soul is it. That's the core. There is no one else to fall in love with in this poem. There's no one else. So you love, when you care for your soul, you have a lot to share with others. And, in the poem, the act of writing and the kind of staying still, you have a field and you don't have to do much, but to give yourself, honor the ancestors, honor your expression, be it writing in Robert Bly's case or whatever it is, that's really important. And again, I'm saying this for myself. Like this is all about self work, if you want to call it work, tending to the self, tending to the soul. So dis-ease may manifest from the mind and manifest in the body or vice versa. It may come from the environment, which influences our DNA. Our thoughts influence our gene expression as well. From, and I say here also, or from mind processes or states of being. There's a holistic view here. Diseases, many folks say and believe, often start outside of the body, in the thoughts and the emotions, the stories, the ego. Stress turns on the switches that may not be turned on otherwise. This is scientifically proven now. Dis-ease can come and does come from stress. In modes of expression of that, anger, depression, being on edge, too deep, too low in the muck, anxiety, the mental loops, the mindless habit trail of the default mode network. And more on the default mode network and really more deep stuff in season 3, episode 16 with Dr. Florian Birkmeyer. So here I'm enjoying a nice agrimony tea, another protective herb. So with aromatherapy, we are touching the soul. Sitting with those oils with the plant is soul work. The molecules are working with us on so many levels, including the electron level, the cellular level. We work with the body. Aromatherapy is holistic, but what really, really helps is the direct connection with the limbic system and our nervous system, memory association, meaning making by identifying, remembering. There's that direct connection between scent communication and the mind, memory, and it's deeper than the memory. So The nervous system, our limbic system, is the place where the body and mind meet. And I have here, I have a whole class on sensuality and sexuality. I have a note that sexuality and smell, or forget about pheromones and all that, are really integrated in organogenesis. And we get into in my sensuality class. So I have an article on the website about the body budget and how we are not our emotions and our emotions are not us. And this is based on work by Lisa Feldman Barrett and other scientists who refute the triune brain theory, like the layering of the brain, the primordial brain, all that. And then you have suddenly the quote executive function. So emotions are sparks that show us something needs tending to. We can control our responses. Like many people do this, right? This is why we meditate, why we pray. We need time of solitude so we can find our center, right? And we get into this in the detox class. So how can we detox the brain if we're sleep deprived, stressed, depressed, anxious, our digestion's off, breathing isn't full, we're dehydrated? Well, we need to work with responses with our affect, our responses to things. And classic aromatherapy, holistic aromatherapy training suggests to always start with the stress response rather than the symptoms. We are whole beings. Emotions are these sparks that say, hey, something's going on. We have neurotransmitters going on. The whole neuroendocrine system, the hormones, this is our communication system. It's communicating with the limbic system, with the brain, with receptors all through the body. And essential oils communicate with these receptor sites, with the limbic system, with the whole neurology. Some molecules bypass the blood-brain barrier. Gosh darn it. So it's, again, this is not just about scent and that smells nice. So, this is breathable chemistry and dialogue with our entire being. It's in the air we breathe. And remember last episode, those scented candles? What are we breathing in? I don't know. All right. So, aromatherapy can support, adjust mind states perception, which can influence movement and rest, can support slow, slow, slow versus go, go, go. It's kind of as simple as that. And we need both. We need rest, digest, and we need flight and fight. Not all stress is bad, right? Some stress is really amazing and scary, like running in a marathon, moving when you want to move, starting a new job if it's something you want to do, starting a family, you know. So, anyway, there is a lot more in the class content, including a nifty PowerPoint deck with graphics. You get to hang out with Carolyn. So check out that class. And now let's just a little bit more left. Let's change the topic to Yarrow. So I have a love affair with Yarrow. I think that's been quite clear by now. I feel Yarrow is an exemplary aromatic herb capable of supporting the detoxing of the mind. And again, this is a new relationship I'm having. This is new. I'm off writing about Yarrow and spending months with Yarrow. As a side note with Yarrow, um, it can be weedy. And that's, what it is. I mean, when the plant's happy, it can be like, zing, I'm taking off, I'm going to go everywhere. So when you think about it, it's therefore a more sustainable essential oil or hydrosol. Hydrosols are already more sustainable than essential oils when you think about it. More sustainable than working two soul plants like sandalwood, spikenard, rosewood, and rose, the plant rose, very expensive essential oil. You can always turn to the hydrosol too. And sorry, Rose, I have written here, sorry, Rose, I love you, but it doesn't always have to be about you. But those are beautiful soul plants. I mean, all of them are working with us on this deep level, the essential oils. So just a little bit about yarrow. please go check out the article. It's not that long, and there's a bunch of information in there. Also, a plant talk video from is it 2020? So here's an excerpt from my notes on Yarrow oil, essential oil relating to states like analysis paralysis. Yarrow's shield quality protects the body soul from the analytical mind of taking over to an extent. It amplifies the body, the lower chakras to help feel with the soul, with the instinct, and with the self. Yarrow doesn't care about process. It doesn't care about how and why. It just is, it just does. And it's so neutral and protective. And I always say it's like it feels like dull cardboard. And this is not a negative thing, it's just neutral. It helps neutralize your inner and outer, inner perception of what's going on inside and also out. It kind of lets you step back and be like, oh, let's really assess the situation. So, in summary, and this is from the article, Yarrow acts as a protective shield both internally and externally, like I just said, helping block out negative influences and allowing buried emotions to surface safely. It blocks, shields, almost seems to suspend outer and inner data noise inputs. So clarity can be uncovered and time can be taken to assess and process. It promotes healing from both physical and deep emotional trauma, soothes and calms the mind and emotions, offering a sense of detachment and clarity. It balances heavy emotions and stagnant energy, providing a sense of lightness and presence, while calming overactive thoughts and promoting centered thinking. So you can go to the article. I'm just going to say one more thing. It's not sedating. That's the cool thing is you are quite aware. It's very touching on the third eye and lower chakras. It's very interesting. I've had some very interesting experiences over the past couple months. So much more in the article. And as we wind down this episode, I'm pleased to share a poem, Yarrow. Now I'm opening up the one of my essential oils of Yarrow. Just smelling it from the bottle. Already feeling there's a pulsating that happens. And like these circular sweeping motions that make me think of wings of a bird. If you're watching a video right now, you can see me doing something with my hands. And I'm going to spray this protective Yarrow mist that has made guest appearances in the podcast. So, a poem, Yarrow, by yours truly. In the cracks among the pebbles, by seaside and over prairie, gracefully adept, trampled underfoot, protective Yarrow thrives. Attendant to coursing rich blood, quenching wounds, a reminder of being alive. Blood's absence or stasis is death's dull reminder. Though quiet and steadfast, deceptively humble, oft misread as common, a barrier from without, a neutral shield within. Yarrow. So thank you very much for taking time out to hang out with me, to chat about detoxing the brain, hang out with Yarrow, indulge me in sharing Conversation with the Soul by Robert Bly and Yarrow, a poem Yarrow. So next time, we'll see. I don't know what's going on the next time. We'll see what the next episode is about. So until we meet again, please follow the Essential Aromatica podcast on your preferred platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google's. Check me out on YouTube. Also have the podcast up on that. And thanks so much. It's always a pleasure. Gotta love those plants. So thanks for spending time with me and signing off from Lower Manhattan next to One World Trade. Ciao for now. Mwah. Bye.